This is a tiny Lego city built completely from parts that I found in my Lego bin in my collection, and it consists of 10 small individual buildings. And I have spent the past 2 weeks basically building this entire city and recording every step of the way for you guys in a series of 5 episodes known as Building a Tiny Lego City. Today, the Tiny Lego City chapter of Seabrook Productions is sadly coming to an ending, but this is the final episode, so I'm basically going to be showing you guys a full tour of everything I built in the Lego city. The city essentially consists of 3 parts, the first part being the base row of 5 buildings, the second part being the road sort of raised above the first row, and the third part being the second row of 5 buildings raised right above the first row of 5 buildings. The first part isn't attached to the second or the third part, so it can easily be slid off to gain access to the road system and the second row. And the road and the second row of buildings are essentially all on this massive brick. Well, it's actually one brick and a smaller brick that's connected near the right side of it. The road is also attached directly in front of the second row of buildings, and this is essentially a bunch of colored 1x2 tiles that I sort of stuck in at an angle, and it ends up looking pretty cool. There is also a trolley attached on the left side of the road, and essentially this is able to go back and forth between buildings, and this is really the only motion that I got to incorporate in my city, but it ended up turning out really cool. I also built a drawer full of small black pins on the second road block, and essentially this is able to slide in and out of there, as I use black pins a lot in connecting the buildings, so I need a place to store them so it goes inside this roadblock. But as I mentioned before, I basically designed this massive roadblock so I could place 5 buildings directly behind the road, and they all place into there really well, and it ends up looking just amazing. It's nice and flush with the road, and I'm super happy how the giant like roadblock turned out. And since I don't necessarily need to use any black pins to keep them in place up there, as they're just on studs, I can basically switch them out as I please very easily. You can see there it only took like 5 seconds to switch them out. One of the first buildings that I built in the city was actually the Fountain Mock, and this honestly turned out really cool. I especially like the golden guy. It's basically Michael Scott's Dundee from the Lego Office set kind of on there. It's actually the only corner building I made, which is pretty interesting. And then to the left of that, we actually have the church. I mainly want to do this because I wanted to experiment with stained glass, and stained glass just ended up looking so good. I'm also a big fan of some of the techniques I got right above the doorway and the window there with some clip pieces, and it complements the fountain just really well, and it's overall a very nice, grand looking building in the city. To the left of that, I put the ramen shop. This was actually the last building that I actually ended up making in the city, and I especially love a lot of the Japanese writing that I borrowed from my brother's Monkey Kid set, so that's pretty cool. Giant ramen bowl and chopsticks right above the doorway are also pretty neat, and it's a nice little like different sort of building. Like, it looks pretty different than a lot of the other buildings in my city, but I like it there. To the left of the ramen shop, we have the auto shop, and this is another pretty solid one. It's one of the only 1-story buildings actually that I have in my city, but it's still pretty tall because of the massive tire and the smoke coming out from the top. It's a cool sign. I also really like the red and yellow shutters. They look nice, as well as a bunch of tires out front, and it's a pretty good looking building. It's not as good looking as some of the other ones. To the left of the auto shop, we have the bank, which is actually another one of my first ones, and it's another really good looking one. It's actually pretty basic, with the white and the tan basically being the main color schemes. But while some of the colors are a little basic, they blend together just so perfectly with the green and the bushes and the money, and it all just blends together pretty much perfectly with the smock. I really do enjoy the bank. Above the bank on the second row, we have the fire station, another pretty basic looking building, but still looks pretty good with that bright red color. I also found a printed fire piece, so I ended up adding that later to the fire station, but it also has a little fire truck coming out of the garage there. I also like how the garage looks, and the window technique I used was also pretty cool. At the end of the day, it's another pretty basic looking building, but I can't say I'm disappointed with it, as it just looks pretty good, especially next to its brother, the police station, which is honestly one of my favorites. You got the bald eagle and American flag from Michael Scott's Office again, and then you also got the nice blue and white color scheme for that sort of classic police station feel, and the other little sliver of building to the left of it, and some bushes. And honestly, it's one of my favorites. There's just something about this classic American feel for a police station that I really liked about it. And we also got the trolley, of course, that goes in between the fire station and the police station, which I kind of showed earlier. Right, the police station is a pizza shop slash apartment, and this is one of the only buildings in the city that's actually 2 buildings in one, like together. I used just such a cool technique to get this little pizza logo just outside of it, which you'll see in episode 2, I believe, and there's also the pizza slice up there, and of course the little sliver of apartment building right next to it. Overall, I couldn't be more happy how this little pizza shop apartment combo turned out. It's just a good looking pair of buildings. To the right of the pizza shop, we got the bar. I know there's not too many bars in Lego cities, but I decided to include one just for that simple fact. It's got a skylight on top and a bunch of clip pieces, which is a cool technique, as well as a service thing and a little glass of beer, and of course the bright lime color scheme on the bottom. I even put a tiny bulletin board outside of the bar just because I thought it was a really nice little detail, and overall the bar is is a pretty good looking little building in the city. And last but definitely not least, my favorite building in the entire city is the bowling alley. Bro, I just love how the bowling alley turned out. Just a mix of the messy roof technique as well as the little bowling ball and the bowling pins and the yellow color scheme on the bottom and the BOWL sign out front with the letters from the Lego typewriter. It has to be my favorite building that I built in the Lego city. I don't know about you guys. It just turned out so good looking and like instantly recognizable as a bowling alley. So yeah, that is essentially my entire tiny Lego city, and this episode essentially marks an end to the tiny Lego city era of Seabird Productions that's lasted the past 2 weeks. I had a lot of fun making this tiny Lego city, but it's also very draining just like filming everything you're doing, and then you have to sit down and voice over and add music and edit. There's so much editing that went into this series, so I'm about ready to be done with it. I think if I want to be cheesy and say one thing that I learned from this experience, it would be that you don't need a ton of Lego pieces to make something cool. Lego City is one of my favorite mocks I've ever made, and it didn't require a ton of pieces. Well, there was a lot of pieces in the end with 10 buildings, but each building doesn't need a lot of pieces. So it just goes to show again that, you know, you can build anything you want out of Lego. You don't necessarily need certain pieces. You can just start with what you have, and that's pretty cool. I think I've come to an end of the final episode of my Building a Tiny Lego City series. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting the series all the way. Seabird Productions, sign off for now. Make sure to like and subscribe if you'd like to help me hit 500 subscribers. We are on the road to that. I'll see you guys later. Peace.